What's up, Jackalopes? Welcome to my channel. I'm Hope, and this month, because I'm a sucker for a good theme and I have no self-control, I'm planning to participate in 2 readathons. I've never participated in a readathon before. I just thought it sounded like fun, and then I found 2 that I was super interested in. So, even though they overlap, I'm gonna try and make it through both of them. The first one, as I'm sure you can tell by the hat, is Sherlock-A-Thon, which is being hosted by Opal from Opalescent, and that one runs from March 8th to March 27th. The other one is the Backless readathon that is being hosted by Zoe Delaney, and that one is running from the 9th to the 15th. So basically, the first week of Sherlock-A-Thon is also Backless readathon. This is probably a terrible idea, but I'm gonna do it anyway. But to save my sanity at least a little bit, I decided that I would try and find some books that could count for prompts for both readathons, so I could narrow down my list at least a little bit. And I did manage to find a little bit of overlap. So both readathons have 6 prompts, and I have 9 books picked. So I have 3 that are going to count for prompts for both readathons. Before I tell you about the books I'm reading for the readathon, I want to let you know what I'm reading this week before the readathon starts. The first of these is Mattimeo by Brian Jacques. This is the 3rd book in the Redwall series, and this is also the 3rd book in my Redwall reread project that I'm doing this year. I'm going to talk about this a little more in my February wrap-up, but I've decided to spread out this project a little bit more, so I'm going to be reading 1 Redwall book a month, and this is my pick for March. The other book I'm currently reading is The Butchering Art by Lindsay Fitzharris. This is a nonfiction that follows Joseph Lister, who was a key figure in reforming surgery and hospitals and medicine from the Victorian era, where things were very unhygienic and quite dangerous, really, because they didn't understand how infection worked, to more what we know today. So he helped revolutionize that whole situation. Really important person in history, and this is really interesting so far. It's a little denser than I thought it was going to be, so it's a little bit slower going than I thought, but I'm still going to try and get through it this week. So those are the books that I'm going to be reading this week, hopefully finishing this week before the readathons start, but I'm not sure yet. Now let's just talk about the readathons. I'm going to start with the prompts for Sherlock-A-Thon, and I will create something on screen so that you can see the madness that is my trying to double up for prompts. So there will be a visual here. I haven't decided yet. Editing me will figure that out. The first prompt for Sherlock-A-Thon is: the game's afoot. Read a book that begins in the middle of an exciting event. I've decided to read Return of the King for this one. If you are somehow unfamiliar, this is the 3rd book in the Lord of the Rings series, and I started this in high school because I had read The Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers in 9th grade, and then I moved. So I never finished it because I put this book in storage in the meantime. Now I have it back, and I've had it back for 4 years now, and it's just been sitting on my shelf. But this book opens up when Gandalf is trying to get another character away from a place because this character has made a grave mistake, and he's trying to get that character to safety and kind of protect everybody from the ramifications of this mistake. So there's this grand escape thing happening at the beginning of this book. This is the first of the books that I am using for 2 prompts, because I'm also using this book to fulfill the Backlist readathon prompt to read a book that intimidates me. Because I haven't read this in a very long time, and I don't fully remember what happened in the first 2 books, I'm a little nervous about getting back into this book because I know it's going to be dense and it's going to be a little slow. So I've been putting it off for a very long time, but it's time. It's time to finish the Lord of the Rings series. So yeah, this is going to be both my book that starts in an exciting event and my book that intimidates me. The next prompt for Sherlock-A-Thon is Elementary, read a good old murder mystery. So I decided to go with a classic, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. This is one of many, many Agatha Christies I haven't read yet, but I've been wanting to read it for a long time. It was easy to pick one because I have a ton of murder mysteries, but I also wanted to go for something a little bit shorter so that I have some chance of actually finishing some of these books. The third prompt is a high-functioning sociopath. Read a book with a morally gray protagonist. And for this one, I've decided to read The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. I hope I got that right. But this is the first book in the Witcher series. It's actually a collection of short stories. But I haven't read the Witcher series. I've been wanting to because I really like the video games. And my understanding of the Witchers is that they're supposed to be neutral parties in everything that they do. So their goal is only to kill monsters, and they're not supposed to get involved in politics or any other thing, but just kill monsters regardless of anything else, which I think could set up Geralt to be a morally gray protagonist if he's pursuing the killing of monsters over the ramifications of those actions. So I decided to go with the Witcher series for this prompt. So, the fourth prompt for Sherlock-A-Thon is My Dear Watson, read a book starring a dynamic duo. And for this one, I've decided to read The Heiress of Linn Hagh by Charlton. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. I've been saying Linn Hagh for a long time, and then Google Translate seems to think that it's Linn Hagh. So I'm going to go with that, because it probably knows better than me. But this book centers on Detective Stephen Lavender and his companion, Constable Woods, and I think his name is Ned. I think he's Ned Woods. Not sure of that, though. But it follows them as they are called out to a country manor to solve the disappearance of a young heiress who has completely vanished into thin air from her locked bedroom. And I started reading this back in, my first or second year of college, which was, 4-ish years ago now, 5-ish. And I absolutely loved it. But then I had so much reading for school that I just let it fall through the cracks. And for that reason, I'm also using this for a Backless readathon prompt. And for this, I'm using this one for the title that I'm most excited to read, because I remember absolutely loving what I was reading of it, and of all the books that I was looking at that have been on my TBR for a long time, that was the one that I just felt was going to be the most interesting to me. The fifth prompt for Sherlock-A-Thon is Inspector Lestrade, read a book involving law enforcement. So, again, this was pretty easy to pick because I have a ton of these, but I decided to go with Death at La Fenice by Donna. And this one follows Detective Brunetti of, I think, the Italian State Police, as he is trying to solve the murder of a conductor who was poisoned in the middle of a performance, and he's a world-famous conductor. And I just think that sounds super interesting. But yeah, it's got a detective from the Italian State Police in it, so I think that counts. And then the last book that I am reading for Sherlock-A-Thon is for the prompt Nothing New Under the Sun, read a book that is directly inspired by Sherlock Holmes, and I'm going with The Fifth Heart by Dan Simmons. This is a book about Sherlock Holmes, but in this version, he is in America. I believe this takes place before the empty hearse, so before he comes back. And he's in America, and he's trying to solve this mystery, but as he's trying to solve it, he's also becoming self-aware and realizing that he is a fictional character. And I just think that that sounds like a really cool premise. It could be really interesting, so I've been wanting to read this for a long time. It's been sitting on my shelf for ages. The only reason I haven't actually read it yet is because I haven't finished reading the original canon. I'm pointing in the wrong direction. I'm going to do that in every video. It's back here. I haven't finished reading these. That's the Sherlock shelf. This one right here. So I actually haven't read, is it the Reichenbach Fall? That's the name of that story? I don't remember the name of the story. Whatever one that has Moriarty in it. I haven't read it yet. So I haven't read this yet. But I've decided that I don't care because I know the gist of the ending of that story, so I'm just going to read this one anyway. I'm also reading this for the Backless Readathon prompt, a book with blue on the cover, because basically the whole cover is blue. So that's all of the Sherlock-A-Thon prompts, and I have 3 prompts left for Backlist Readathon. The first of those is to read the shortest book on my backlist, and for me that is The Last Menagerie by Tennessee Williams. I have absolutely no idea what this was about. I couldn't even find a particularly good synopsis online, but I just know that it's a play, and I had to read another one of his plays, A Streetcar Named Desire, when I was in English in 11th grade, and I liked it pretty good, and I decided I wanted to read some more Tennessee Williams, so I picked up this one, and it has been sitting there since before I graduated high school. I'm finally going to read it. I still have no idea what it's about. But it's short, so I'll find out quickly. The next prompt that I still have to fulfill is a book that was a recommendation. So I'm going to read Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. My best friend recommended this to me years ago. I've had this copy for like 3 years. I've even read half of it, like in the last year, but I've just never gotten around to finishing it. And I don't know why, because I really do like this book, but for whatever reason, I've just never gotten around to finishing it. So I'm finally going to get around to finishing it. And then the last prompt is to read a diverse backless book. So for this, I decided to read The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LaValle. This is a kind of an homage to and a response to the work of H.P. Lovecraft, who writes all this really cool cosmic horror, but he was also terribly racist. So this book is following a young black man in Harlem in the 20s, I believe. Yes, as he is trying to provide for his family and gets wrapped up in some creepy cosmic horror happenings. But I just think it sounds super interesting, and I love it when there are books that not only pay homage to a previous author, but also address some of the criticisms of that author's work and some of the issues with it. So I'm super excited to read this. I've been wanting to read it for years. And I know I'm probably going to read this in like, I don't know, an hour or so. It's like 150 pages. So this I'm going to breeze through. I already know that I'm going to love it. Just everything about it sounds super interesting. And I'm really excited to read this one. To be honest, I might read this one first. But those are all the books that I'm going to read for both readathons. It's a whole lot of book. Let's see if I can... I tried this earlier and I dropped it. There's like 2 things that aren't going to be in here because they're ebooks. I'm going to get my Kindle, but I don't feel like it. So I'm going to read all of these plus 2 ebooks. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. I am excited to read these, though. And I'm excited to participate in a readathon finally. I've been wanting to. I hadn't done it before. But this just seemed like it would be fun. But if you made it this far through me rambling for... This is probably going to end up being a long video. But if you made it through all of my rambling, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any thoughts about any of these books, please feel free to share them in the comments. I'm super excited to see what you guys have to say. And I hope that I will see you next time. Bye.